The server locked eyes with me and uttered the 4 words that flipped my world upside down. "I'm sorry," card declined. My mom and dad exchanged smirks. My brother's new wife leaned in just loud enough for the entire table. Guess someone can't even cover her own meal. Laughter rippled around the circle like I was the punchline they'd all been waiting for. They had no clue the storm that was about to hit. If you've ever been the overlooked kid who finally got the ultimate comeback, slam that subscribe button. Drop a like if you're here for some delicious family karma. Believe me, this one will leave your jaw on the floor. Let's dive in. My name is Cynthia. I'm 28. I teach 3rd grade at Lincoln Elementary. My alarm goes off at 5:45, and I'm usually still at my desk past 8 correcting papers and prepping lessons. I drive a 2015 Honda Civic with a dent in the fender I keep meaning to fix, but never quite have the cash for. I buy most of my clothes from clearance racks and still use paper coupons. Glamorous? Hardly. But every dollar I earn is because I worked for it. In my family, I was always the reliable one. The one who ran errands without being asked. The one who bit her tongue when things felt unfair. The one who stayed quiet and kept the peace. My little brother Danny was the total opposite. Loud, flashy, always the star of the show. My parents treated him like he hung the moon. While I juggled 2 part-time jobs to put myself through community college, they surprised Danny with a brand new BMW the day he turned 18. While I lived on instant noodles in a cramped studio, they covered full tuition at a private university for him. While I pinched every penny, Danny had life handed to him on a platinum tray. I told myself I could live with the imbalance. I really thought I could. Until that one dinner when they made me the family punching bag. Have you ever felt like the invisible child in your own home? Drop your story in the comments. I know I'm far from the only one. When Danny announced his engagement, our house turned into wedding central overnight. Mom scattered bridal magazines across every surface like we were planning a coronation. Dad told anyone who would listen that this was going to be the event of the decade. Money? Not even a factor. Whatever his fiancée circled in those glossy pages, my parents whipped out the card. Custom gown flown in from Paris? Done. 5-star catering for 300? Of course. Live orchestra? Naturally. Top shelf open bar all night? Why not? I happened to glimpse the final invoice on Dad's desk one day, $950, 000 for a single evening. Dad signed it without hesitation and said, "Nothing's too good for my son." Now compare that to my own wedding 3 years earlier. When I timidly asked for a little help with a simple venue, Mom fished a crumpled $50 bill out of her purse and said, "You're sensible, Cynthia. You don't need all that extravagance. Be thankful." Jake and I ended up at the county courthouse. We exchanged vows under buzzing fluorescent lights and toasted with vending machine coffee. The clerk even called next while we were still hugging. At the next family gathering, my uncle chuckled, "Well, we sure know who the golden child is." Everyone roared. My cousin piped up, $50 for Cynthia, nearly $1 million for Danny. Talk about a gap. Heat rushed to my cheeks as I stared at my plate. Mom just beamed like it was the best joke she'd heard all year. Dad lifted his glass for yet another toast to Danny's amazing future, pretending I wasn't sitting 3 feet away. Later, while I was loading the dishwasher, I passed Dad's office and overheard Danny on speakerphone with a buddy laughing. Bro, they basically emptied their retirement for my wedding. And the funniest part? Cynthia got practically nothing. Still broke as ever. My stomach twisted. It wasn't just favoritism anymore. It was deliberate cruelty. They actually liked watching me scrape by while Danny lived like royalty. Danny's wedding reception was supposed to be his fairy tale night. For me, it felt like being erased. The ballroom dripped with crystal chandeliers and gold accents, and when I checked the seating chart, my name was nowhere near the family. My parents, Danny, his bride, aunts, uncles, everyone important sat front and center by the dance floor. My card was at a tiny table shoved in the farthest corner, next to my 90-year-old great-aunt who kept calling me Carol, and cousins I barely recognized. I waved at Mom and Dad from across the room. They looked straight through me. The servers hit the head tables first with chilled champagne and elaborate hors d'oeuvres. By the time they reached the back, the trays were half empty. One of my cousins whispered, "Welcome to the kids' table, I guess." I forced a smile while something inside me cracked. Then came the speeches. Dad took the mic, swirling expensive scotch, and declared to the whole room, "One of my kids has made me prouder than I ever thought possible tonight." He paused for effect, then added with a grin, "The other one. Well, courthouse ceremonies are cute in their own way, right?" The room exploded in laughter. I shredded my napkin under the table. Jake squeezed my knee, but it didn't stop the tears threatening to spill. I thought that was rock bottom. It wasn't. A week later, Danny rang me up. "Hey, sis, since you don't have kids or a real life, you can watch the house while we're on our honeymoon, cool? Feed the dogs, water the plants, maybe tidy up a bit. No big deal." Before I could reply, Mom jumped on the line. "Cynthia, it's the least you can do. Danny's earned a proper break." I swallowed every scream and said yes. For 2 weeks, I lived in their mansion, cleaning, walking dogs, running errands, while they sipped cocktails in Santorini. But I saved every single receipt. Dog food, gas, cleaning supplies, every cent went into a folder. At school, I grabbed every extra tutoring gig, every after-hours sub-job, every Saturday detention monitor shift. While they flooded social media with honeymoon pics, I was quietly stacking ammunition. What my family never understood was how obsessive I am with money. Every paycheck got divided, necessities first, then the rest, however tiny, went straight into a secret high-yield account they didn't know existed. It started small, but years of skipping vacations and eating cheap added up. Then there was Grandma and Grandpa's inheritance, $25,000 put aside for me when they passed 5 years ago. My parents swore they were keeping it safe and invested. After the wedding, red flags went up. Their explanations got vague, so I marched to the bank and requested every statement. What I saw made me nauseous. Huge withdrawals, dates matching the florist deposit, the venue balance, the band, the photographer. My inheritance had paid for Danny's dream day. They assumed I'd never check. They assumed I was too meek to fight. I made copies of everything. My quiet nature wasn't weakness, it was strategy. And the plan was forming. One afternoon in the staff lounge, I slid the thick folder across to my friend Maria, who moonlights as a paralegal. She flipped through page after page, eyes widening. "Cynthia, this account was in your name only. Your grandparents were crystal clear. Your parents had zero legal right to touch it. This is theft." For the first time, validation hit harder than anger. Meanwhile, my family got louder. Mom plastered Facebook with professional wedding shots. Dad name-dropped the caterer to neighbors. Danny's new favorite phrase at gatherings, "Not everyone gets the fairy tale wedding. Guess I'm just special." One day, I dropped off groceries Mom had texted me to pick up. I heard them in the kitchen before I reached the door. Mom laughed. "She'll never say a word. Cynthia's too spineless." Dad snorted. "Let her keep slaving away at that dead-end school job. At least she's good for running errands." Something inside me shattered and rebuilt itself harder. I left without a sound, knuckles white around my keys. For years their words cut because I thought I was powerless. Now I had proof, legal advice, and fire in my veins. I invited my parents and Danny to the house on a quiet Sunday night, no restaurant, no audience, just the four of us in their familiar living room where I'd been belittled 1,000 times. They lounged on the leather sectional looking irritated, Dad with his usual whiskey, Mom arms folded, Danny smirking from the recliner. I placed the folder on the coffee table and opened it deliberately. "This account was never yours to spend," I said, sliding the first statement toward Dad. He barked out a laugh. "Oh, come on, Cynthia. Family money is family money. We used it for a good cause." I met his eyes without blinking. It was never family money. It was mine. Grandma and Grandpa made that clear in writing. "And these records prove you stole every cent." Dad's smirk faltered as he actually looked. Mom peered over, color draining from her face when she recognized the dates. Danny rolled his eyes. "Big deal. You wouldn't have done anything with it anyway." I turned to him. "Actually, I'm not broke. I've been saving for years while you partied. And now you're all going to learn what happens when you rob the wrong daughter." Silence fell so heavy you could hear the ice melt in Dad's glass. Mom stammered, "Cynthia, honey, you wouldn't drag family business into court. Think of our reputation. You should have thought about reputation before you laughed at my courthouse wedding and spent my inheritance on caviar." Dad slammed his glass down. "You wouldn't dare sue your own parents." "I already did. Maria filed yesterday. It's official." For the first time ever, no one had a comeback. 2 months later, the judge barely needed 10 minutes. Evidence was airtight. Every dollar, plus interest and my legal fees, was ordered returned immediately. They didn't even fight. They couldn't. They sold Danny's BMW, drained what little savings remained, and took out a second mortgage to pay me. The lingering wedding bills? Danny's problem now. The bragging stopped cold. No more honeymoon highlights, no more golden child jokes. I took my money, the original inheritance plus everything the court added, and bought my first real home. Nothing extravagant. A cozy 2-bedroom with a little porch and space for a garden. Jake and I painted the walls ourselves and hosted a housewarming. I invited them. I wanted them to walk through rooms I paid for with money they tried to steal. I wanted them to see the life I built without a single handout. When they stepped inside, something shifted. The smirks were gone. In their place, uneasy respect, maybe even a flicker of fear. They finally understood the daughter they dismissed had steel in her spine. I learned the hardest and best lesson of my life. I spent years bending over backwards for people who would never value me. I thought if I just worked harder, stayed quieter, they'd eventually see me. They never did. And that's okay, because standing in my own house, mortgage in my name, I realized I don't need their approval anymore. My marriage, my career, my peace, I earned every bit of it. Their silence no longer stings. It liberates. If you've ever had to draw a line with family who treated you like an afterthought, hit subscribe and share your victory in the comments. This community understands the weight of being undervalued by the people who were supposed to lift you highest. Your story matters. Your strength matters. What's the sweetest justice you've ever served? I'm reading every single comment.